Topping today's news, the Boundaries Report passed in the House of Assembly. Foreign Affairs Minister addresses concerns regarding the new U.S. visa policy. Prime Minister Davis and U.S. Ambassador Walker addressed the Bahamas business outlook, and a man shot and killed by 3 gunmen on Wednesday. Good evening, Bahamas. This is your JCN Evening News. I am Jarino Saunders. Speaking at the 35th Annual Bahamas Business Outlook, Prime Minister Philip Davis delivered the keynote address where he said that for many years, national conversations focused on survival, surviving storms, surviving shocks, surviving cycles. But survival was never the destination. The destination is progress.
When this administration took office, the economy was still well below its pre-pandemic size after the most severe contraction in our modern history. Output had collapsed, unemployment had surged, confidence had been shaken, debt was rising fast, the fiscal deficit was deep, global conditions uncertain. That was the inheritance. So our first task was not to promise the future, it was to secure the fundamentals. We said we would restore stability, we have. We said we would bring the economy back to strength, we have. We said we would move from emergency to sustainability, and we're doing exactly that.
Prime Minister Davis said that the heart of our national ambition is aiming towards an economy that moves beyond dependence, but towards diversification, that rewards work, skills, and imagination, that gives young Bahamians reasons to stay, build, and lead in their home country.
Through national upskilling, apprenticeships, technical training, and expanded access to education at every stage of life, we are preparing Bahamians to compete in a world that is changing faster than any generation before ours. We are redefining what success looks like in a modern economy. So let's ask ourselves, do we still believe opportunity must be rationed, or are we ready to expand it? Do we want an economy that works for a few, or an economy that invites many to build, own, and lead?
He concluded by stating that time has passed and we no longer have to imagine the country we want to become. We are now in a position to build it. According to Prime Minister Davis, the future of the Bahamas will not be built by chance, it will be built by choice. Also speaking at the Business Outlook today, United States Ambassador to the Bahamas, Herschel Walker, addressed the topic of strengthening the Bahamas' relationship with the United States and their importance within the wider regional global economic landscape.
We're not just focused on temporary assistance to the Bahamas. We're committed to long-term investment that will empower the Bahamians to thrive and succeed well into the future. For example, the U.S. Export-Import Bank committed to $276 million in financing over the past 2 years to help provide energy for economic growth in the Bahamas. Starlink stepped up to deliver affordable internet to the family islands. Investment by American companies is fueling tourism here. This in turn is creating jobs, and I'm happy to see so many Bahamians employed by top-tier American companies like Hyatt, Citadel Bank, and FedEx.
Ambassador Walker said if SpaceX can resume its Falcon 9 takeoff and landings here in the Bahamas in the Exuma Sounds, the opportunity can put the Bahamas on the world stage as leaders in the future of space economics, moving the Bahamas from a regional sea base as a tourist place to a global space base as a tourism leader.
The U.S. is also investing in infrastructure and critical mining to strengthen the region. Strengthening the foundation of long-term prosperity is a Bahamas requirement, and we must do it together. Be a team, build on what we already accomplished together. Get serious about tackling common threats such as drug trafficking, illegal migration, cybersecurity, and the supply chain problem.
Ambassador Walker said to Americans that the Bahamas is more than just a pretty island nation and that we value the United States as neighbors, friends, partners, and family. The Boundaries Commission report was debated and passed in the House of Assembly on Wednesday and is now on its way, should be there by now, to the Governor General to make way for 2 additional constituencies, namely St. James and Bimini and the Berry Islands, taking the number of seats in the House of Assembly to 41, along with a number of changes to polling divisions in various constituencies, particularly here in the capital. Chairman of the Commission, Deputy Prime Minister Chester Cooper, led debate for the government and defended the process and the outcome of the Commission's report.
The Constituencies Commission is not a creature of convenience. It is not a political plaything. It is embedded in the Constitution, and it exists for a reason. And our parliamentary democracy depends on representation that is credible, that is understandable to the average voter, and grounded in fairness. The Constitution provides for the distribution of constituencies and sets out the procedure by which boundaries are reviewed and changes are recommended. The order that is now before this House similarly reflects that constitutional basis and confirms that it is made in accordance with Article 70. That is important, Madam Speaker, because we live in an era where some people want to treat democracy like a sporting event and boundaries like the referee. If the game is not going their way, they blame the lines, they blame the register, they blame the election officials, they sometimes even blame the police, they blame the whistle, they blame the umpire, they blame the sun and the rain, and sometimes they even blame the grass. But democracy is not a game. Democracy requires us to maintain a framework where each Bahamian can feel that their vote matters and that their representative's voice has appropriate weight in this House.
Mr. Cooper explained that the addition of 2 new seats was necessary based on the Commission's findings in relation to the number of registered voters in Western New Providence and in Grand Bahama, Bimini, and the Berry Islands.
The Commission considered demographics, it considered geography, it considered the most recent census in the context of population shifts. Because we know people move, communities move, new developments come, infrastructure changes, family islands change. We either respond sensibly or we pretend nothing happened, and then we complain that the system is unfair. But, Madam Speaker, the Commission fulfilled its mandate under the Constitution, including the procedure for review and reporting, and it produced a final report that recommends the redistribution of seats. And we all know already that this legislative instrument that gives effect to those recommendations provides that the Bahamas shall be divided into 41 constituencies, 25 in New Providence, 5 in Grand Bahama, and 11 in the other family islands.
Meanwhile, although they signed off on the changes recommended by the Commission, F&M Deputy Leader Shannon Cartwright, who was also a part of that commission, says there is a need for improvements to the system.
The only point I'm making, Madam Speaker, again, this notion that though we have signed the report, that there's a problem if now in our contributions we just point to some things that we feel could be perfected, be made better, because ultimately nothing is perfect. Nothing is perfect, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you know, this whole discussion about the general election, the boundaries, obviously it necessitates in our mind the need to emphasize, again, general concerns about the voter register and the need to clean it up as best as we can. That's legitimate, and I'm sure we all agree.
Mr. Cartwright suggested the dynamics of the MyCal constituency needs to be addressed as it encompasses 5 islands in southern Bahamas, making it difficult for its Member of Parliament to adequately address the concerns of its residents. And finally, in this segment, Bahamians were shocked and dismayed at first when they learned that They may no longer be getting visas to travel to the United States for school, business, medical, or vacation after news about the Americans' new visa policy affecting 75 countries, including the Bahamas. The Bahamas Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell sought clarification on that matter, and he spoke to it while in the House of Assembly on Wednesday.
The Foreign Ministry has taken note of a statement by the United States Embassy about immigrant visa entry into the United States. The ministry sought clarification on the matter and is informed that the suspension will not apply to applicants seeking non-immigrant visas or temporary student or business visas. Further, the arrangement between the Bahamas and the United States for travel via police record remains in place.
Mr. Mitchell also reminded Bahamians that the Bahamas has no control over U.S. policies and can only rely on the long-standing, mutually beneficial and respectful relationship between the two nations.
Bahamians should take note that the United States is not our country, and just as we set rules for entry into the Bahamas, they set rules for theirs. In the past, we have worked with the United States on multiple issues, and the results have always been fair and rational. We expect that it will be no different going forward.
Again, that new visa policy that impacts those seeking immigrant visas to reside and work in the United States is expected to kick in on January 21st. You're watching JCN TV News. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back following these commercials.